Hey, this is Josh Keaton, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hi, this is writer Matthew Rosenberg, and you've jumped into the pull bag, only on the Geekcast Radio Network.
We're fighting an army of robots, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
Hello and welcome to So You Wanna Be a Hawkeye, a new miniseries exclusively inside the pull bag and on Studio 2009 here at the Geekcast Radio Network. This series is going to discuss all things Hawkeye, delving into both Clint Barton and Kate Bishop in the comics and then in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series premiering November 24th, 2021. I am TFU and Mike, and joining me is Alison Sky Richards, who came up with this excellent idea of a miniseries.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm here.
Well, that's. I hope for that, but but we also have a amazing, phenomenal comic writer guest today, Matthew Rosenberg. You may know him from the current run of Batman Urban Legends, Joker Puzzle Box, and Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, the last of which is being adapted into a feature film with Picture Smart. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Great. So, before we dive into spitballing about the Disney Plus series, why don't you tell us about your history working with the original Hawkeye, Clint Barton?
Yeah, sure. So I always try and do dates, and then I'm like terrible with dates. I was going to say I started working at Marvel, and then I have no idea when I started working at Marvel. So I started working at Marvel a bunch of years ago, and very early on, Hawkeye has always been one of my favorite characters since I was a little kid, and it was definitely a character that I kind of set my sights on and was trying to write and trying to get into things and into books. And I kept sort of asking about Hawkeye, trying to write him in things and trying to put him in different things I was writing. And eventually he started appearing in The Punisher when I was writing The Punisher. And then I started writing a series called Tales of Suspense, which Marvel asked me to do, which was a Hawkeye Winter Soldier team-up book.
Yes, I'm going to come back to that one in a minute.
Okay. And from there, I wanted to keep going on Tales of Suspense. The sales were not what we needed to do that. And so I said, well, can I do a Hawkeye book? And they were very excited about that idea at that point. And I sort of pitched it, and we started to get it going. And then I got whisked away to the X-Men corner of the Marvel Universe and had to spend all my time sort of putting out a bunch of fires there and doing a bunch of things that were really fun. And there was a bunch of like different things going and different ideas brewing and a bunch of different people taking books. And so there was a lot of like finishing other people's books and mixing up timelines. And so it took a lot of time. And so I couldn't do the Hawkeye book. And then finally, when my time on X-Men came to an end, I circled back and said, yeah, I really want to do that Hawkeye book now. And so I did a book called Hawkeye Freefall there, which is a mini-series with the great Otto Schmidt on art.
And my first thought in my head as soon as I see the title, and it's been in my head all day long, because I actually tried to read the thing before we started. I've been trying to read it for the last 8 hours as of this recording, and there's been a lot of stress lately. But anyway, like, I keep looking at the Hawkeye Freefall title, and all I can hear in the back of my head is free falling.
Sure.
That's all I can hear in the back of my head.
Solid song. A classic, if you would. I actually didn't name the series Freefall. That was actually a suggestion from Alana Smith, our wonderful editor on the book. The title I wanted to use, Marvel did not like, and we were going back and forth over and over, sending each other titles, and finally Alana came in and was like, Freefall. And I was like, okay, sure. Let's go with that. But it was not a me suggestion.
What was the title you wanted to use?
I wanted to call it Hawkeye, It's Not Funny Anymore. That was what I wanted to call it, which I thought was a very good title, and a lot of the Marvel writing staff thought it was very good, and I think a lot of the Marvel editorial and sales staff did not. So, as these things often go, the creative side and the sales and editorial side don't necessarily see eye to eye. I think often the editorial and sales side are correct and know what the audience wants, but the creative side gets excited about things that aren't good ideas sometimes. And this was maybe one of them, but I still like that title.
Yeah, and that would have fit Clint's personality a lot more too.
Yeah. I mean, I think I wanted to do the idea like there'd been a bunch of Hawkeye books that were that are great, that I love, that are pretty goofy, and I wanted to sort of dog whistle the idea that we were going to go take it someplace darker by the end. So like start off a little goofier, and then by the end it gets pretty heavy. And so I thought It's Not Funny Anymore was a good joke, and also fits with Clint's personality of just like, one of the themes of the joke is that one of the themes of the book is that he's taking jokes too far, that he's like messing with the hood as a joke, and everyone sort of gets it. And then it's like, this is a very dangerous person to be messing with, and he just won't let it go until it's a war.
Yeah.
So that was my idea, was to call it that. But Freefall's a good title as well, and I was happy to call it that.
Yeah. Well, coming back to Tales of Suspense,
Sure.
So that's actually the comic that I was introduced to your writing through.
Okay.
And you also kind of sailed my ship for the Clinton Bucky ship, Winterhawk.
Sure.
And then I kind of loved how you brought it back, with sneaking Bucky into Freefall for the one issue. And now Kelly's gone back in the Black Widow and kind of done a homage to you by having the trio back together again in her first 6 issues.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, like, so were you involved with Kelly at all in kind of going back on that relationship and helping her with it, or is that all on her?
No, that's all on her. Me and Kelly are super close. She's one of my best friends. So like we talk about our work with each other. I mean, almost daily. And so, when I was working on Tales of Suspense, she really liked it, and I really liked her Hawkeye run. And, we sort of talked about those books a lot. And, and she was one of the people who kept being like, you have to do your Hawkeye pitch. Like, you have to do your book. Like, stop doing other stuff. And so when I had the chance to do Hawkeye again, she was like super supportive, and like, we talked about the book a lot, and I sort of bounced ideas off her. And so when she started doing Black Widow, she was like, are you doing more stuff after Freefall with these characters? And I was like, not right now, no. And she was like, do you mind if I run with it? And I said, no, go for it. The one thing we don't see eye to eye on is I'm a big fan of the Hawkeye purple costume, and she is not as much a fan of it. I don't think she dislikes it, but she likes the more modern costume. And so she was like, I'm going to ditch the purple. And I was like, no, you have to leave it. But she wouldn't. But I understand it. That's, Kelly's going to do what Kelly's going to do. I can't stop her. It's her book.
Yeah, it's his formal wear, I think, is how they put it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, she told me she was going to do stuff, and she showed me scripts and art as it was going, and I was, Kelly's the best, so I was super excited to see what she did, and she's been doing awesome stuff in Black Widow with that trio, so it's very fun.
Yeah, and I actually, looking right over my shoulder, I have the spread from issue 6 open on my wall, framed, which is where they show Hawkeye up on the beam shooting the arrows down as they do, as the girls are fighting the soldiers underneath.
Yeah.
And, I just felt that was a perfect representation with him, because you can actually see how fast he's firing the arrows and everything in that.
Yeah. That's a very cool sequence for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you got to the end of Freefall, though, you kind of left Clint at a crossroads, where, he could go back to being a hero, or he could, start touching back on returning to his villain origin if people looked at what he did, depending on the lens they looked through.
Sure.
So if you got a chance to write with Clint again, where would you want to take him?
Well, Free Fall was a funny thing because there was a lot of like crossed wires, I guess is the polite, delicate way of saying it with the book. Like it was announced as a miniseries, it was announced as an ongoing. People didn't really know what it was. And then I think there was actually an error where it wasn't in the previews catalog when it came out. And so like stores didn't know it was coming and all this stuff. So there was all these sort of like weird, it was sort of a cursed book from Go, but I'd always planned to do more of it. And then it came out and, it did fine. It didn't do amazingly well. And then COVID hit and it was one of those books that they paused. They didn't pause it, but they went to digital only for it. And then the Hawkeye fans were amazing and really supportive and made a big ruckus and politely, which is always important. And Marvel, being the heroes that they are, put the rest of the issues in print, and so we were very lucky for that and very appreciative. But my plan was always to keep the story going in one way or another, and I actually ended up talking to Marvel a bunch about when they were like, "There's not going to be more Free Fall," of what we were going to do, and I had a whole other pitch that was going to be. Hawkeye is sort of a darker, sort of a darker hero, like not darker because he'd still be Clint and be funny and whatever, but sort of more of a treading the line of legality a lot closer, sort of towing the line of what's legal and what's not was going to be the big thing. So we were going to do. I actually pitched it as a Heroes for Hire book, and it was going to be Clint sort of running an operation with Night Thrasher funding it, and them kind of teaming up to rob. The idea was that they would be robbing villains and sort of just hitting them economically, shutting them down, and funneling their money into like social programs and good causes. Sort of a continuation of what he was kind of doing in Free Fall to the Hood, but like on a grander scale. Leading up to my pitch was that he would try and take down the Kingpin, and of course fail miserably. But that was going to be it. Is that he was going to be sort of doing this thing where heroes knew that he was still Clint and a good guy, but that he was breaking laws and robbing people and sort of doing things in a much sketchier way. But we just couldn't get that traction for that book. I think it just wasn't the right time and. The editors I showed it to were super enthusiastic, but it just couldn't get off the ground. And then, the pandemic, things were weird and they didn't know where books were going or who was doing what. And so it just never happened. So that's why I was really happy that Kelly was like, I want to run with this stuff a little more because it didn't, we get some closure on some of the things and sort of her take on it. It's a little different from where I was going to go, but that's sort of the fun of Marvel, really.
Well, if the audience and the Hawkeye fans bring in some new MCU fans into the fold, you never know. They may come back and revisit it on you, and then we'll get to see this, because I really want to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do it at some point. I love Clint so much. He's one of my favorite characters in all of comics. And so, if Marvel ever was like, oh, come to a Hawkeye thing, I would always be there to do it. But there is a Hawkeye book now that's launching very soon. That's a Kate book. But
it's Marjorie, I believe.
Who's writing it?
It's based on Kate Bishop.
Yeah, it's a Kate book. I forget who's making it. I know some people I know just read it and said it was fun.
It's Mariki, and I'm probably butchering the name, but Mariki Nijkamp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
It looks cool. The cover art was cool. The teasers were cool. I'm excited for it. I think it had Phil Noto cover. He's great. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I hope people pick it up. And, Hawkeye's a hard book because Hawkeye has a very passionate audience, but it's a small audience in comparison to, your Caps and Iron Mans and Thors and people like that. But so it's always hard to explain to people, like, well, a Hawkeye book's a hard sell, and everyone sort of looks around and is like, all these people love Hawkeye, and I'm like, yes, people really love him. The people who love him really love him, but that's not always the big enough audience to maintain a book on its own strength. So
yeah,
but I hope the new book does really well. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, especially with how the MCU is kind of starting to lead toward having Thunderbolts again.
Yeah.
And, being that Hawkeye has comic history with the Thunderbolts, being able to have a comic series that maybe goes along with it where he could be part of it again, that I would love to see.
Yeah. A Hawkeye Thunderbolts show, Hawkeye Thunderbolts book would be cool. We toyed with that idea when I did a 3-issue Thunderbolts thing, and we were going to have Hawkeye on that team as sort of a got caught, had broke some laws, got caught by the Kingpin, and was forced on the team, and it just, for where we were going to go with the story, it felt like really dark place to take Clint in a book that wasn't where he wasn't the focus. It's like, it's okay to take Clint somewhere dark and sort of put him through the ringer if it's his book, but in another book, it's kind of just feels cruel. So we ended up not using him for that Thunderbolts book, but obviously it was something that I was pushing for a bit, but then it didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And you got Bobby for ForceWorks, but you didn't get him in there either.
Yeah. We got Bobby for ForceWorks. ForceWorks, we were weighing like the original ForceWorks team, West Coast Avengers, like all that stuff. And I love Bobby and always like to use her. She appeared in my Punisher run too, alongside Clint. And I think she's a fun character who's very underused. So I was really happy to get to write her in ForceWorks. But yeah, again, another character that it's really hard to have her own book. It's hard to get a Mockingbird book going. She had the excellent one a few years ago, but
yeah, I was going to say, I know your name is on the spine of the Mockingbird series for book volume 2.
No, that's not me. That's Rochelle Rosenberg, the colorist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I kind of thought maybe that you had been in that issue, the one issue where Clint was in it.
No. I don't think I had anything. Wait, did I have something in that trade? No, I didn't. No, I think that's Rochelle, the colorist.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she colored that book.
Okay.
A common. All the time at cons, people want me to sign her books and her to sign my books. And we have to always be like, no, I didn't work on this. And 1 in every 10 people is like, that's okay, you can still sign it. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll sign it. I didn't work on it, but yeah, let's go. I don't think she does the same. I think if she doesn't work on it, she says no. But she's the best. She's great.
So when you were preparing to take your first stab at Clint writing, what were some of the things that you look back on previously that brought some inspiration to how you were going to approach it?
Yeah, I always try and sort of dive in and jump around to like the different eras. And I think for me, the fun of doing Marvel is like sort of the synthesis where you find all the different takes and sort of put them in a blender and take the parts that work for you and come with something new and then add a little of your own thing. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, obviously the Bendis stuff in New Avengers and Avengers was really big. I love Brian's take. The Matt Fraction, David Aja Hawkeye book obviously is a big influence. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big fan of like the first Hawkeye miniseries, the Mark Grunwald mini, and the old like Avengers Spotlight, Solo Avenger stuff. Like that was some of my favorite comics when I was a kid. I would like go find back issues of that stuff. And even back then, which is like that's in early 90s, late 80s book. I don't know. I was like buying them in the dollar bin when I was a kid, but that stuff even was still, it was a Hawkeye book, but they couldn't sell a Hawkeye book. So there was a stealth Hawkeye book. It was called, Solo Avengers or Avengers Spotlight, because they needed the Avengers in the title. We actually toyed with calling, when we couldn't find a name, Hawkeye : the Solo Avenger was going to be was one of the names I suggested. I wanted it to be the Solo Avenger or Hawkeye the Worst Avenger. And they were like, we really don't want to call one of our characters the Worst Avenger. And I was like, but it's a joke in the book. And they were like, yeah, we get it. And I was like, okay, well, I think it'd be funny. But so like all that stuff, like going back to the early Hawkeye stuff and then jumping around and, those were sort of the big touchstones for me. I really like, I honestly like all the Hawkeye books. I really like, Jeff Lemire's. I like Kelly's. I like, Jim McCann has a great Hawkeye Mockingbird book. I like all that stuff. Fabian Nicieza has a Hawkeye book, but the big ones for me were definitely Fraction and Aha, Bendis' stuff, and Mark Grunwald. Those were the big sort of ones that I sort of studied and took notes on.
This is the first Christmas we've had together in years.
I love you guys. I'm making up for some lost time.
Authorities are wondering if the masked vigilante who terrorized the city's underworld is back.
The past has caught up with me.
Should we be worried?
No, it's nothing. I'll be home for Christmas. I promise.
It's the most wonderful time.
When I wore this suit, I made a whole lot of enemies.
You're a Hawkeye.
Who the hell are you?
Some people have actually called me the world's greatest archer.
Are you one of those people?
It's the most wonderful.
Hey, babe, I should be back in a day or two. Hang on a second.
With the kids jingle belling and everyone telling.
Things have gotten more complicated.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the most wonderful time. Yes, the most wonderful.
This is too dangerous. Definitely not this one.
You don't have to say definitely like that. Holy sh**. There are arrows more dangerous than that one?
It's just some Christmas.
Now, speaking of Fraction, now it feels like for looking at the Disney Plus series and the trailers that we've seen come out, that it's pulling a lot from Fraction's run.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
So, what are you looking forward to seeing them having translated over from Fraction into the MCU?
I love that story. I'm very curious because David's work on that book is so iconic and so unique and beautiful, and he's just such a master artist. I'm very curious to see if they sort of pay tribute to that or try and directorially try and match some of that. I think he'd be very hard to go step for step with. He's a very sort of idiosyncratic artist, but I'm very curious if it's just going to be narratively, obviously character design and stuff owes a lot to David and David's run, but I wonder if we're just going to get a narrative version of that story, or if there's going to be more visual cues. That's very exciting to me, and obviously I want to see Lucky. That'll be very fun, but I think for the most part, just the way they stylize it will be very interesting, and I hope they keep it exciting.
Yeah, I was really excited when they took the picture on set with Jeremy in the purple suit, the purple more modern suit.
Yeah.
And just seeing that makes you realize they're finally, going to give him, some of these aspects of his comic character that we really haven't seen much of beyond what they brought over from the Ultimates. Yeah. And then part of me also realized, out of all of the characters, we don't know his childhood story.
Uh-huh.
Because they've given us pretty much everyone except maybe Bruce Banner.
Mm-hmm.
But we have no history of Clint for MCU beyond when he recruited Natasha and knowing that he had married and kids.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm going to be curious, like, to see what of his childhood is going to be popping forth that, you know, they really focused in the comics with the circus and Barney and seeing all of that.
Yeah. I'm that would be really fun. I think he has such a fun, unusual origin for the Marvel universe. I think it's very like it makes Clint stand out in a good way. He honestly, like, he has a very like he has a very DC-esque origin, really. Like a lot of DC characters come from the circus, so it's very it's always fun to have Clint as the sort of oddball that he is. And yeah, I think that'd be really fun to have Barney in there and sort of, anything to sort of give Clint more. I always like him in the movies, and I think he's really good, but he's not as fun as he is in the comics. And I think giving him a history and trying to make him a little more fun could go a long way, for sure.
Yeah.
I retire for what, like 5 minutes, and it all goes to shit.
What are some things that you hope don't come over from the Fraction comics?
Wow. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that I hope doesn't come over. Let me think. No, I mean, I really like those books so much. I'd be happy to see them sort of, kind of pay tribute to any of it. And, the fun thing is always like about the Marvel TV and film stuff is seeing how they take the book stories and tweak them and reinvent them and make them work for the screen. So like even stuff that I'm not as in love with in the books, like I sort of still get excited about seeing that on the screen because I'm like, well, how are they going to approach this? How are they going to deal with these things that didn't work for me? And they're very good at it. I think they're very good at finding things that didn't 100% click, but are now like in continuity and just sort of ensconced in the history of these characters, and finding them and finding these good ways to sort of massage them and make them work. And so like, I can't think of anything in the Matt and David's run that really didn't work for me. I really do love that run, but just on a bigger scale, I think anything that doesn't work, I'm always like, well, let's see how they handle that, is always a fun kind of thing.
Yeah, for me, the only thing I could think of is I'm not sure I actually want to see like dog cops on a television screen. It's like, I love the idea of the show and his obsession with it, but at the same time, I really don't want to see what it visually would look like him watching a TV with it on.
That's fair.
So that's like the one thing. I kind of am like, I don't really need the visual there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fair. Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they throw that on there as a funny gag.
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
Now, if you could write an episode on the Hawkeye show, just knowing kind of what they're going for the season, what part of it would you want to really be involved with?
If it's based on if we're pulling stuff from Matt and David's run, like, obviously the issue that's from the POV of the dog is the one you want to write. Like, that's the most fun. The pizza dog issue is I think the way to go. I would love to write that.
Yeah, it's the Eisner Award winner one, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. It's just so iconic and different. Like, even in the comic, it's so, even in comics where you feel like they should be taking risks and doing weirder stuff more often, it's like you just don't get a lot of stuff like that and when you do, it's really striking, and they really hit it out of the park. It's not just that they took a chance, but that they really like went for it, and it's great. And I would love to see the show do that, you know.
Good job, Hawkeye. Go get your arrow.
All as I want at this point is forget Hawkeye and Bucky. I want Hawkeye and Grayson. I want Hawkeye and Nightwing. That's what I want.
That's my fan fiction world that I write over in AO3.
Yes, I know. Yeah. They came from the same circus. They were rivals. Now they're best friends.
Yeah, that's a fun one. They're not in any of that, like the crossover stuff. I feel like there isn't. I don't remember any like of those crossover books having them meet.
No, the only crossover I have of them is like the Avengers Justice League one, and that is where I think it's Ollie wakes up having a dream, or one of them wakes up having a dream where Clint and Dinah are together. And it's like for 2 pages, but it's the one moment where Clint is actually a member of the Justice League. So I think he is the only Avenger who can actually say in their comic credit that they've been shown as a Justice League member.
That's great. Yeah. I'm writing a book at DC now called DC versus Vampires, which I'm doing with my buddy James Tynan and then Otto Schmidt, who did Hawkeye Freefall with me. And it's a really fun book, and it's, you know, it's dark and it's crazy and it's weird, but I'm trying to make it fun. And, you know, Otto, like, he just naturally draws things that are full of like sort of life and humor in a way that, like, doing a weird horror book with him is such a fun challenge, because like everything he does is so beautiful, and you're like, no, this has to be horrific, Otto. Like, but you know, the idea came from James. It was a book that James wanted to do, and James is very Bat family oriented, and he's a big Bat fan, obviously, and just loves that stuff. And when I came on board, I immediately was like, there's not enough Green Arrow in this. Like, we need more Ollie, we need more Dinah. And so I immediately, like, we started reworking it from like the minute the day I came on board. I was like, needs more Ollie, like right away, let's go. So I'm really excited because I get to work with Otto on an Ollie Dinah story that also has, you know, Batgirl and Nightwing and Batman and Constantine and all these other awesome characters that I love. But it is stealth. It's funny because I think the cover to the first one, we had a cover that didn't have Ollie on it, and by the time we were like a certain way into the arc, Ben Abernethy, who's the editor on the book, was like, there's so much Green Arrow in this, like we need to put him on the cover. And I was like, all right, I wasn't going to tell you that this was like a stealth Green Arrow book, but it's a stealth Green Arrow book, like, let's throw him on there.
Well, honestly, can I tell you, when I saw you show the first cover on your Twitter feed, that's when I turned around and went to my comic book store and had to put it on, because I'm like, oh my gosh, Batman and Ollie, I need this.
Yeah, it's I'm really excited. It's very fun, and you know, I think there's good ways to have fun with Bruce, but like a story like this, it's very hard to make Bruce fun, because it's end of the world stuff, and he is the most sort of driven and relentless about that stuff. And so having Ollie, who also is very serious and very, you know, determined when he needs to be, but also is a little funnier and a little more willing to like make quips and stuff. It's really fun to play them off each other. I literally was just writing a scene for them last night that I was like, oh, this is exactly the book that I want to be writing right now. So I'm very excited for that stuff. But there's no Clint in it, obviously.
Yeah, no. Otto, I know occasionally on his Twitter feed, he has this like little world that he draws from, which is like Clint, Bobby, Ollie, and Dinah in it.
Yeah. They're like always double dating, sort of, in his mind.
Yeah, they're always double dating, and they're, you know, showing the similarities between the two couples. And but my favorite one is like this one where the boys are beaten and like bandaged up, and the girls are sitting on the bed behind them, you know, just chatting, not a single scratch on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Otto is he's a big Bobby fan. Mm-hmm. And when Hawkeye, when he took Freefall, one of the first things he said to me, he was like, Bobby's in this? And I was like, yes, but she's not the romantic interest. She's not in it a lot. And he was like, very sad. But I was like, Night Nurse. We got Night Nurse in it. Like, this is Clint's thing. And if we were going to keep going, it was going to be like, there was going to be more Bobby to it. And I said to him, I was like, if we get past 6, like, Bobby has a bigger role for sure. Because it's sort of the, all the women who love Clint and sort of, have to look out for him all the time and take care of him will all sort of be stepping in to form my idea was that they're like a sort of task force to stop him before someone nastier stops him from doing it. And so I was like, there's going to be like a Mockingbird leading a team kind of thing, an anti-Clint team, but done with love.
Task Force Spartan.
Yeah, there you go. So we didn't get to that. So I'm always sad for Otto because he loves Bobby so much. But I was like, well, I'll get you lots of Dinah in this book. So comes out, he's going to be happy. He's happy in the end. So
yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I'm now knowing that I'm going to be seeing Otto with Ollie and Dinah. I'm like super now excited.
Yeah. We haven't shown a lot of the cat. Like the DC vs. Vampires book is really fun, but it really expands out in a lot of ways. So like, people keep being like, oh, is this Batman versus everyone? And we're like, no, it's not really about Batman. Like, he's just on a bunch of covers because stuff was planned early, but it's really not a Batman book as much as it's a DC Universe book. So, but yeah, Dinah's in it a bunch for sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is Batman on the cover because Batman sells the most?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't. If you want me to edit that out, I will, but I could not not ask that.
It's not people are always like weirdly cagey about it. And it's like, well, he's the most iconic superhero character in the history of superheroes.
This is Kevin Conroy, and I am the goddamn Batman.
He is the lead in the best-selling comic. Like, yeah, they use that. Like, Marvel has a bunch of characters that all will move the needle when you put them on a cover. DC does too, but not like Batman. Like, Batman is in a league of their own. Like, so yeah, they throw Batman on the covers whenever they can. If it makes sense. He's in the book and he does things. He is a central character, and the Bat family are very, very important and pivotal. But if it comes down to it and we have a cover meeting where they go, should we put, John Constantine on the cover or Batman? Like, I can say John Constantine, but they'll be like, well, if we put Batman on, the book sells better, and that's better for you and everybody. And, at the end of the day, we want readers, so people who get very excited about Batman. I mean, it's the same thing with, like, the Joker, that it's like, this is, I write a Joker book at DC, and people are always like, oh, I'm so sick of the Joker. Why do they keep doing this? And I'm just like, they keep doing it because it's the most popular villain in all of comics. So you could be sick of it, but while other people are not, they really like him. So
don't step on other squee.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, I need to catch up on your work.
Sure.
But I have seen and I have read the solicits for Puzzle Book, and wow. That's one way to take the Joker.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. It's very I'm always sort of shocked that they let us do what we're doing, because it's a very weird book just in the context of all of comics. Like, it's short stories and with an unreliable narrator, but it's all connected. And yeah, it's a fun one. It's really weird, and I'm really happy. But I think the Joker's also like just such a versatile character. Like, people tend to think like, oh, there's like the Joker means a certain thing, and it's like, it really doesn't. Like, I'm drawing a lot from like 1960s Joker. I'm drawing a lot from like the TV show Joker and Golden Age Joker as much as I'm drawing from any other era. And it's like, these are very different characters. Like there are a lot of different iterations of this character that I think are all really effective. So,
ooh, this could be a fair fight after all. And who wants to see that?
I really like writing the Joker. I think he's very fun.
Well, I was going to say before we wrap up, we've got these 19 issues you've got coming out within the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Why don't you take some moment and just, give us a rundown of everything you're working on right now and where people can, basically send you money.
Well, it doesn't go to me. I hope people give money to their local comic shop. But I'm going to miss things and feel like an idiot. So starting this month, the end of October, I'm launching 2 books at DC, the aforementioned DC versus Vampires, which is me and James Tynion and Otto Schmidt doing a full-on vampire invasion of the DC universe, like anything goes, sort of chaotic, carnage-fueled romp that I'm very excited about. And then I'm also doing the same day a book called Task Force Z, which is me and Eddie Barrows doing a Red Hood story about Red Hood leading a team of zombified villains. It's sort of a Suicide Squad, but they're already dead. And then right after that, I'm doing a run on Detective. I'm doing the backup stories for Mariko Tamaki's excellent detective book. But me and Fernando Blanco are doing this story that I don't know how much I can talk about. I guess their solicits are out. It's sort of a story of a little boy who could have been a Robin, growing up in Gotham, but just always like a sort of a sliding door thing where he's just outside of Bruce Wayne's grasp to save him. And so he's a little boy who falls through the cracks and finds the other side of Gotham. And that's a 12-issue thing that I'm doing that I'm very excited about. It's also in Detective Comics, so that's such a cool honor. And then I have the Joker puzzle box, which is out. A few issues are out. I think 3 issues are out now, which is a very fun, weird one, like I just said. And then what else am I doing? And then the only other big thing, I'm doing a couple issues of filling in for James Tynion on a couple issues of his Joker series. It's me and Francesco Francavilla doing sort of Jim Gordon tales back in time. So we're doing a sort of a Killing Joke era Jim Gordon. We did an earlier issue. I did issue 5, which was me and Francesco doing a sort of Batman Year 1 tale on Jim Gordon. And so now I'm doing a couple that are more closer to like the Killing Joke era, that sort of time period in his life. And then I have a new creator-owned book coming out November 10th from Image Comics called What's the Furthest Place from Here? That is me and my buddy Tyler Boss, who I did a book called 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank with. And it's sort of a post-apocalyptic coming-of-age story about gangs of children wandering the wastelands of America after the end of the world. And just one of their gang goes missing, and they have to sort of set out to try and find her and figure out what happened to her. It's really fun. We're really proud of it. It's sort of something I've been working on for 4 years. So like, I'm very excited to actually have it coming out. It's one of those things where you work on something for so long that you lose all perspective on whether or not it's good or worth your time. And so for the last year, I've kind of been having low grade anxiety about it all the time. But then we finally have it announced. So I got to send it to a bunch of people, and I sent it to a bunch of creators, and they were all incredibly sweet and nice and supportive and really enthusiastic about it. So that made me feel good. And maybe the audience will buy it and also be as enthusiastic as other comic creators were, I hope. So
well, I've been seeing a lot of people, talking and being excited about it on the internet. So hopefully that's going to result in going to comic book stores and grabbing it.
Yeah, I hope so. We're trying to do some like cool things with it. We're really playing with the medium a lot and me and Tyler are really pushing ourselves. And, we made the first issue 64 pages, and the next bunch of issues are 48 pages. We're trying to give people their money's worth and give them a big story that doesn't feel like a bunch of other stuff they've seen before. So, I'm really excited about it. And I hope people do pick it up and give it a chance if they liked anything else I've done, or even if they didn't. Sure. Let's say that. I hope they give it a chance, because I think we worked really hard on it, and that's worth something. Sure.
Yeah. And then, to help you remember, I kind of went to one of these websites quickly that's like, who's writing what right now? And it's got you listed still writing Legends of the Dark Knight.
Oh, so yeah, that's an anthology book. So I just wrote one issue of that, which came out yesterday.
Okay.
Issue 6. Yes. So yes, that is correct. That is in my list of current projects. I wrote Legends of the Dark Knight 6. Me and Kian Torme did a Batman Killer Croc story in a flooded Gotham, and that's half of the book. And then the other half is a very cool Solomon Grundy story that I really liked a lot. Yeah. So
now it seems almost all your work right now is DC. Do you have anything in Marvel, like with Spider-Man?
No, I'm not doing anything in Marvel at the moment. DC kind of filled up my plate. And then I have some creator-owned stuff. I have the Image book, and then some other creator-owned stuff I've been working on. It's just the way the cookie crumbles that DC had a bunch of stuff that I couldn't say no to, and so that's where I landed. I did write a little bit of Spider-Man last year. I co-wrote like 5 issues of Amazing last year with Nick Spencer. But that was it. I don't have anything coming up for Marvel right now. No, I'm just a fan.
Well, you're in good company right now with that.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess the last thing I gotta ask is, Matt, with your intimate knowledge of Hawkeye and his world, do you want to be a Hawkeye?
Wow. I'm going to say no. He's the sad thing is, like, if there was any superhero I would be, he's probably the one I would be. But no, I don't want to be a Hawkeye.
You don't want to fall off roofs into dumpsters and stuff?
No, I don't want to, like, I don't want to barely make it out of every fight. That's not a good way to be. Like, Thor shows up and sometimes he just clobbers everybody and leaves, and he looks great. He doesn't even break a sweat. Like, that's a good one to be.
I mean, except for the fact of when he goes up against force fields and thank God this podcast is explicit. Holy shit. Hey, language.
Sure.
The other question we need to ask you, and we need to work this into future things, Alison.
Okay.
If you did want to be a Hawkeye, which trick arrow would you want?
Trick arrow is just so hard. I like just a good old-fashioned, like, gas arrow, like knockout gas. Like, that's just a good arrow. That's just useful. You're not hurting people bad. It's good for stealth. It's funny. Like, that's a good arrow. Like, explosive arrow has limited use. Like, boomerang arrow has almost no use. Like, there's a lot that are like very specific, but I think knockout gas, that's just always useful. That's a good one.
That one's too dangerous. That one's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Are there any ones that aren't dangerous?
Yeah.
And Jeremy's face in that one where he's just like biting his lip and looking away. I'm like, yep, nope, there's Clint.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good bet for sure.
Where can the people find you online, sir?
Sure. So I have a Twitter, and it's Ashcan Press, ASHCANPRESS. No, it's not .com. It's just Twitter. It's at Ashcan Press. I think I have that for everything. I have it for Instagram, and I have it for Facebook. I just always forget to use those. I'm on Twitter more than I'm on the others. And then I have a newsletter which is substack.matthewrosenberg.com or substack.com/Matthew Rosenberg or some permutation of those words, however Substack formats it. I have a little newsletter that I send out where I just sort of talk about my work. I'm going to start doing it more frequently and sort of go in depth. One of the things I'm hoping to do next year is sort of like go through a lot of my books and sort of show some behind the scenes stuff and some pitches and process stuff and just give anecdotes sort of issue by issue on stuff that I remember. And, you know, I mentioned that to some people, and I mentioned it online, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh, you're going to do Hawkeye?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I would definitely do Hawkeye." So that's something I'm hoping to do next year, is sort of go issue by issue of Hawkeye and sort of talk about the process and, you know, all the little inside secrets. And, you know, we have a bunch of deleted scenes and stuff that I would probably like to show at some point.
Awesome. Anything else you want to ask him, Alison, before I run through the outro?
No, I am just very thankful that you said yes and came over to join us for the day.
Oh no, this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Awesome.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here inside the Pull Bag and on Studio 2009. Honestly, between the two podcasts, there are way too many Twitters and Facebooks and whatever. All the links will be in the show notes. Where can the people find you online, Alison?
I am at Twitter at Alison, at Ali Sky Richards, ALISKYRICHARDS.
I am at TFG and Mike. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time here inside the Pull Bag and on Studio 2009.
Tell my family I love them. Tell them yourself.
Hi, my name is Dr. Andrea Letamendi, clinical psychologist.
And I'm Brian Ward, nerd. And we want to invite you to listen to our new podcast, The Arkham Sessions.
It's a podcast dedicated to the fun
and geeky
analysis of Batman the Animated Series, episode by episode.
We pay tribute to the writers and the stories of the animated series,
while also exploring the very real psychology behind Gotham's rogues.
And maybe even its heroes. All of this and more
each week
on The Arkham Sessions
at underthemaskonline.com.
One moment. Go, go, go! Can ripple across space and time, giving birth to new heroes.
I can't go home till I fix this.
Look, I know this may sound weird, but I've dreamed of this for as long as I can remember. When I put that suit on, I thought, this is it. This is the moment I become who I'm supposed to be.
I remember the day I thought the same thing. You know, this life you want to live, it comes with a price.
Well, there's also things you gain. Like trick arrows and a cool costume.
I'm sorry, Kate. I'm not a role model to anyone.
Yes, you are. As far as I'm concerned, we're in this together. Do you mind getting that? My mom canceled my credit card.
We need a car.
Oh, can we take this one? Man, this thing is beautiful.
I'm not smashing a 72 Challenger. Come on. Let's go. Get over here. I need you to drive.
What? I don't want to drive.
Come over here.
No, you drive. I shoot.
I'm not hearing you. You drive, okay? Come on. Let's go. How many we got?
not regular arrows.
What do you mean? Oh my God, trick arrows?
Look, not this one.
All right, you don't have to say definitely like that.
Not this one. This is too dangerous.
This one's fine. I'm using this one.
Be careful.
I was born careful.
They're not regular arrows.
Eeny, meeny, miny.
Come on.
Mo.